Okay, so we're starting week 6 this week. So this week it's a bit of it's an implementation week really, a bit of like a business module week. So the reason why I'm not doing this module is because I'm obviously employed here at Pro Sport. I'm using this as a good week to kind of get everything that I've learned so far and put that to practice here at the clinic, obviously using the help with Shane and Maria that are already here as well. It's definitely a good module for people that have kind of got their own practices. Everybody else, I'm assuming, will be implementing the stuff as they learn it, whereas I've just kind of learned it and now I'm getting into depth with like the discoveries. I'm getting people in for initial assessments, people that we're doing at the gym as well, we're getting them in as well. If they've got any niggles or anything like that, it's a good opportunity for me to do a quick assessment with them and get them looked at as well. Up to date, I would say I've been doing all right. I've managed to keep on track of everything. I've not really fallen behind with any of the modules. I've definitely found I'm going to start with the lower limb. I think that the lower limb has probably been the most challenging, but it's also been the most enjoyable as well. It sets you off with a good example of how the rest of the modules are going to be. It's definitely the most informative, and it's definitely the lengthy module out of the lot. So week 3 was the upper limb. I'd definitely say that this one was a little bit. It was easier in terms of the context that we were getting, but I think it's probably one of the harder ones that you put to practice. In terms of your assessment, it's easier than the lower because it's not as much to test, but you've got to kind of think a little bit harder than I would say for the lower. If I get someone coming for a lower limb assessment, I'm probably like, I wouldn't say I get excited about it, but I'm rushing to try and get there to tell them and explain like what I found to them in the assessment, whereas the upper I probably have to take a little bit more time to think about it. It was probably easier to take it in than it was the lower because you've already got used to the idea of how it's kind of given to you in the lower limb assessment. Week 4 is lumbar spine. So I'd definitely say that lumbar spine was kind of delivered a little bit differently to the previous weeks. And there's a lot more to take in, so you learn the importance of the rib cage, which I think is great, but it's hard. I think it's definitely one of the harder ones to put into context when you get someone to come in, because you've got to link it back to the lower limb as well. It's also kind of very similar for week 5, which was the cervical spine. So I've not actually had to deal with any patients that have had any cervical or neck kind of issues as of yet, but I definitely think it's probably something that I'm not struggling, but I think I'm a little bit apprehensive to do that now, just because there's so much, you kind of think neck and you panic anyway. And there's a lot kind of going on in that region. So I'm kind of a little bit apprehensive to get that done. But same with the week 4. I think it's thinking more about what you're going to do and what you found in your assessment and how you're going to treat them. Definitely a bit harder to think about when it comes to those compared to the lower and the upper limb.
So we're just going to talk through some of the kind of key theoretical components, I suppose, of the mentorship. So what are your key takeaways so far from the modules we've done, like modules 1 to 5 so far, Sarah?
Okay, so the first thing to start with was the effective explanation.
Yeah.
So I think that's so important as well, just to have it solid so that when you have got someone in, that's the first thing that you know that you've got to do. And as soon as you explain that to somebody else, you've kind of got it in your own head, and then you can think about what you're going to do from then on as well.
Definitely.
I think that's really important.
Yeah, I think on that same point, I think effective explanation, the reason it's so important is, first of all, it kind of forces you as a therapist to have clarity. So from session 1, you need to know what the treatment plan is from now until that person is discharged to get back doing whatever they want to be able to do. So I think definitely I'm guilty of this, like 4 or 5 years ago when I was treating, even if I was getting good results, sometimes there was a bit of a lack of a plan there. It was kind of like, just okay, let's see how it is next week, and you kind of have a rough idea in your head, but you haven't actually sat down. And I think the most important thing is you haven't actually told that to the patient. I think a lot of the time the patient's actually unaware what the plan is a lot of the time. So I think it's really valuable in terms of buy-in and in terms of making sure the patient completes the full treatment plan. If we do that well in the first session, it kind of really helps that.
Yeah, that's really good as well. If sometimes if you get like a tricky case in, sometimes it's so easy to just be like, right, let's forget about that and panic in your head. But I think as soon as you're written that down, you've kind of got that plan, and then you know where you're going to go from there. Because it is, like I said, so easy to get them in, do some hands-on stuff, and let them walk out the door not knowing what you're going to do yourself.
Definitely, yeah. But like you said, I think it actually just gives you time to think about it. Yeah. So rather than jumping straight into treatment and trying to desensitize the symptoms, it gives you time to step back and think, okay, why is this happening? So what's the real problem here? Those are the symptoms, but what's the real problem? And then it's having the skill set to be able to amalgamate all your assessment findings
Yeah.
to make an informed decision about what the problem is and go from there. And then being able to relate that back to their story. And I think especially if someone's had pain for like 20, 30 years, if you can do that with them, like, you know, back pain, like long history of back pain, if you can help them make sense of it, just that on its own gives them a lot of relief, because now the pain is not as threatening anymore, and more importantly, they have a plan. So I think a lot of times patients go to the clinics and they leave, even if they get really good relief, they don't really know the plan. And when they know the plan, that's reassuring.
Definitely.
Cool. What else? So effective explanation, I think, is probably one of the biggest ones. What else have you taken away so far?
I think, and this kind of covers like pretty much all of the modules that we've done so far. So the importance of rib cage depression. I think even if you've got something like, I don't know, like a knee injury or something, sometimes it does link back to the fact that your rib cage can't depress properly. So it also kind of how the lower limbs affected to that, and especially like anything upper limb as well, like upper limbs affecting your rib cage. It is really important.
And I think it's how central the rib cage is. So if you have a pelvis issue, obviously, let's say you go into anterior tilt, that's going to drive you into excessive lordosis in your lumbar spine. That's going to drive you into elevation of your rib cage. So the pelvis and the rib cage are so inherently linked. The diaphragm and the pelvic floor are so inherently linked, and the central stability has a big knock-on effect to peripheral tissues as well. So, spot on. I think that's really, really important. What about, say, myotendinous junctions? Have we kind of wrapped our head around those?
Yeah. So I think it was quite useful to kind of understand how to use the pin and stretch technique. I think that was really useful, and how you don't have to know how to do it to every single tendon, but you kind of, because you've got the basics in your head, it's good then that you can apply it to anything. You can literally do it anywhere. It's as long as you have the right thought process, or even if you don't know the anatomy there, you just get the anatomy up and you can just apply the exact same technique to any tissue. And I suppose I think what I find really useful with myotendinous junctions is it's just getting real specific in terms of what you're treating. So you don't have to spend loads of time massaging a whole quad, for example. If we can find exactly which part of the quad we need to treat, and we can target the myotendinous junction, we can get the same, if not a better result, in a lot less time with a lot less effort. And it kind of accelerates our ability to take patients to the next stage of rehab. And that's what I see the hands-on as, really, is it's a window of opportunity to take the patients to the next stage of rehab quicker than they will be able to without the hands-on. So if somebody, let's say, is stuck with a bridge and they're getting pain when we get them into standing, with our hands on, we can desensitize that pain fairly quickly, so we can get the standing a lot quicker. And then if we can get them to standing a lot quicker, and they're doing that for rehab for a week, that's going to have a really good positive effect for them. So it's not the hands-on that gives them the massive relief, but the hands-on gives them the ability to be able to do that pain-free. And then if they can do that pain-free for a week, that's what's giving them the value. Does that make sense? No, definitely. Anything else? I'd say pretty similar to what I said previously. I think how especially when it comes to upper limb and the neck as well, how say like an injury in the arm can affect the neck or that kind of thing. Because a lot of the time I'd be a bit scared to treat the neck, so I'd go straight to like an arm or the shoulder or whatever, and just avoid the neck completely. So it's good to interlink it all together.
And just understanding, like you said, why something's happened. So if someone's coming with neck pain in this case, it's kind of, okay, they've got the neck pain, but is this an upper limb issue? Is it a true neck issue? Is it a lower limb issue? Like, well, what's happening that's causing those tissues to get overloaded? And then being able to make sense of it. So it's all well and good saying, the neck's affected by the upper limb, but it's actually having the tools to figure out why and how, and having the assessment process to be able to do that. I think that's the big thing about the go-to therapist system, is it's not about treatment techniques, it's not about just an assessment, it's not about kind of one like rehab exercise, it's about the whole system as well, being able to take the true stressors from someone's story, make sense of the objective assessment and relate it back to those, and then find what you need to find through your assessment to then guide your treatment. So kind of all links together. Not sweet. I think the big thing then, I suppose, and this will link into the next few modules as well, is graded exposure. So understanding the concept of graded exposure, not pushing people too quickly, but also not being too slow and not being too cautious, and just getting the right amount of graded exposure, and knowing when it's safe to progress or regress your patients and how to do it. I think that's really important as well.
I think as well, I think we had this conversation the other day, didn't we, about I was saying with the lumbar spine, I didn't feel like with the lower, I think there's a lot of progressions that can be made very quickly, whereas with the lumbar you've got to take it so slow, and it's understanding that as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it just depends on your patient. So like I think this is what I said to you is if you've got somebody who's got knee pain for a week, they're going to progress a lot quicker than someone who's had back pain for 30 years. You know, and that's just life. That's just motor adaptations. That's just physiology. So, you know, if someone's had pain for 30 years, their progress is going to be a little bit slower than the person whose knee pain came on last week. And a lot of the time, at least in our clinic, again, this isn't always the case, but a lot of the time, people coming from back pain, I've had that back pain for a long time.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, people coming for knee pain, they've probably only had it for a few weeks. You know, so usually it's usually, not a rule of thumb, knee pain or something like that's going to be fairly acute. Back pain is usually fairly chronic or acute on chronic. That is a long-term issue. Yeah. And that's why sometimes they're a little bit slow to progress. Other times though, and this is why it's not a rule of thumb, other times you get someone coming with a backache and you get them to settle down like that. It just depends on the patient and never having any expectations, but just treating as you find it. Not perfect. Cool. No, but I think you're picking it up really, really well. I think the most important thing is understanding the philosophy behind it, understanding the theoretical kind of side of it, and then when you understand that, the application is really easy. If you don't understand the full theoretical side of it, the application can be hard and it's like wrapping your head around things. But once you wrap your head around what you're trying to do, I think the application is really, really easy. And you don't have to forget all the good stuff that you were doing before. You can fit it around your own system because it's not about, like I said, not about an individual technique. It's about the thought process.